All right. Okay, this is a meme-based presentation. If you don't know memes, you're going to have a bad time. Every time you see a meme that you don't get, you should drink some of whatever is at hand. Where possible, I've left origin in so that contributing people will get credit. Hopefully we get some site traffic from you people that don't know what memes are. God forbid you ever find Reddit. The traditional disclaimer stuff. I am not a lawyer. I am not an accountant. I am a hacker, consultant, security person. So any advice you take from me about financial or legal matter, you do so at your own risk and under my recommendation that you actually seek professional help before investing any of your own money. My company doesn't recommend any of this stuff. This is all on me. Blah, blah, blah. If the feds come knocking on your door, it's your own damn fault. I am knowledgeable, but not an expert. Everybody's unique. While my company has been going for 3 years, and I know a lot of this stuff from more work beyond that, there's lots of consultants I would personally love to talk to. I've been trying to do this presentation for a while, ever since I spun up my own company and started to get serious about stuff. I've been a consultant on the side for like 20 years, but that's all fun and games type consulting, which some of you may be into or may want to get into. The more serious stuff is like anything that we do. Once you get into the game, you start to see different angles of it that are a lot more interesting. But I still don't know everything. This is contact stuff. The only thing that's contact worthy on there is the Twitter feed, which I could give a shit about. If you want to get in contact with me, you can reach me at digitaltrustllc.com. That's hello internet. Fuck you very much. Come by the booth and I'll show it to you. Give you a card. What, like 7 people watch my stuff anyway, so. So the simple truth of consulting in a nutshell is that you've got to have cash flow. If you don't have money coming in, you can do all you want and you're going to be bankrupt or shut down by the IRS. There's several different business entities that you can elect to become should you get into this kind of stuff. One is a sole proprietorship, which is how most people start. Why? Because it's free and doesn't require any effort. You don't have to file shit with the state. You don't have to tell the feds anything. You just start doing everything and it's under your social security number and you can claim deductions against income, which is handy if that's all you're trying to do is offset income. The smart people, the people that we consider to be evil capitalist pigs, like myself, want to spend more than that, want to claim more than that, want to make money that the feds, how do you say this? I want to keep my money, damn it, I earned it. And they're just doing bad things with it. But either way, you've still got to have cash in before you can have cash out. If you are a sole prop and you have a full-time job, et cetera, and all you do is earn a little money and lose money continually, if it always comes off as well, first of all, as a sole prop, you can't deduct a loss. You have to have a company formation to deduct a loss on your personal taxes. And if you let your brains wrap around that concept for a minute, you'll start to see why this is so important to being a successful consultant and making money on the side with this stuff, is you can claim losses against your income from the other job. So you can get back some of that stuff that they're taking. Oh, sorry. So anyways, cash in, I'm dwelling. Unless you're the Fed, of course, you can't spend more than you actually make. They manufacture stuff out of thin air. To me, and to a lot of us, consulting on the side or full-time is mandatory to maximizing your enjoyment of life because it lets you keep more of that time that you spend doing the stuff that you don't enjoy, which is what we call work. Except if you're doing it right, you do enjoy it. We'll get to that in a minute. So the primary goal of any consulting effort, no matter what your reasoning, is to make money. The primary goal of the person doing it may be to race stock cars, might be to breed giraffes or harvest emu, run an emu farm, I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to get done that you enjoy so much, but you can't lose track of the fact that you have to make money, which the government will then attempt to take quite a chunk out of. And if you don't watch them, they'll take more than they deserve to take. But if you can keep the government from taking 10% of your money, that's like getting a 10% raise. That's the easiest way to look at it. If you can retain 10%, then that's like somebody gave you a 10% raise. Kick ass. So we're after two things, getting money and keeping money. And it's that second part where things get interesting. Because getting money is easy. I mean, anybody can have a full-time job and get down some money. A lot of things depend on your attitude and your aptitude. You have to have the right attitude to do this stuff to make the money, because people don't like working with assholes. It's that easy. And a lot of us in the hacking community at times are perceived as being somewhat gruff.
Fuck you.
Amen, brother. Which is a lot of what the alcohol's for. But we all know these sales weenies, these slick assholes. If you don't have the skills to do the job, then that's where you might as well end up. Just admit it to yourself now that you can't do it. And if you're that personable, go into sales, because you will make a ton of money. Oh my God, you know how much these people make for doing what? Shaking hands, being nice, doing what it is they do, the personable skills with the CEO. It's disgusting. Anybody working at a company, your lead sales guy for your region is making at least 3 times what you make. At least. That's the bad ones. But if you've got some balance, even if you're an ADHD douchebag like myself, if you can smile and get the job done, you will actually find accounts, you will make money, you will make friends, you will be rich and successful. But if you're just a douchebag, you're going to make money, but you're not going to get any respect. There are a couple of those in the field. I think we could name a couple names, but we won't do that because I like my bank accounts where they are. But we know who they are. So the first thing that you have to do is figure out what the hell it is you're trying to get done. So, sir that wins. Yes, you that turned your head. What's your favorite hobby thing to do in life? Hack that guy. That's going to be hard to get paid for, but we can figure out something. Well, what's your favorite thing to do? Anybody fapping? No? Okay. Oh, you? Yeah?
I actually managed to crush my enemies and see them doing before me and hit the limitations that I've been in.
Trample the weak, hurdle the dead?
Okay, that will do.
Playing guitar. So, playing guitar is good. I play at guitar. I suck. Like lockpicking, I suck at that too. Thank God I can run a business, right? Be in deep shit. Anybody else like to race cars maybe? Because there's a few of us. Play with guns and ammo? Yeah? All right, well, let me lay this bombshell on you. I go through about 20,000 rounds of ammo a year. I write it all off. I write off every trip to an IDPA shoot. I write off my team's trip to IDPA shoots, our registrations. I figured out this year how to write off the guns. And that took some action. That took some thinking. And it does involve a lawyer and a contract, but, or what is it? A living, yeah, that thing. The only difference between that and a standard living trust maneuver is you make the business the heir, the entity. So back to the conversation here. So once you know what you want to do, then it's just a matter of figuring out how to get paid to work in that field. And in a lot of times, like say auto racing, say you're a NASCAR bug and you want to work in NASCAR, you're never going to be a driver. You're mechanically incompetent, so they're not going to let you work on cars. And you couldn't go over a pit wall any faster than a snail. But you still want to be down there smelling the fumes, watching the colors and the left-hand turns. How are you going to do that? Well, all of those guys use wireless. And what do we know about wireless? There's money in it. So you can make a lot of money doing security, working for NASCAR, if you can get it in, which brings us back to the whole don't be a douchebag. You can go down to any NASCAR track, any NASCAR event, and meet people and socialize and become part of their, if not inner circle over time, make acquaintances. I mean, how much effort would it really take to get in to see Childress? Anybody in here SE, do pen testing? Yeah. It's not that hard to get in to see people. or to at least find their email address on the internet, their real email address, or their cell phone. So once you've figured out what you're going to do and what field that you want to be in, if you can't apply it directly, like getting paid to play guitar, maybe you can get paid to help out with gigs in the area, taking care of their wireless networks and radios when they come through. Maybe you can become the designated go-to guy for this concert series anytime they come to your venue. They all call you. Well, you're not exactly playing guitar and making money, but it's close. You're still enjoying it, and you can theoretically start writing off things like guitars and strings, and it's mostly a matter of applying yourself to the creative thinking. The biggest rule in all of this is whenever I have to spend any money or whenever I want to spend any money, the first thing that goes through my head is, how can I write this off? How can I relate this back to the business? And if I can't, then I ask myself, do I really want to do that? Because it should be something I like. And if you can figure out what you're going to do, you can usually find somebody who will pay you to do it, or some aspect of it. And that's the key thing. If you can't get paid for doing it, get paid for doing an aspect of it so that you can write off the thing that you actually like. Is that legible? Yes, good. Even if you have a full-time job and you're going to keep your full-time job because you like your retirement package, everybody in here should open up a consulting firm on the side so that you can write off your Xbox games. Oh yeah, I write off all my Xbox games and all my PC games and all that shit. Everything I do. I didn't write off my bicycle. I write off my truck, 100% of my travel costs in the truck. Pretty much everything. All the computers, obviously. That's nice. $2,000 laptop. You can either pay for it out of your post-tax dollars from your full-time job, or you can pay for it out of consulting dollars or lost dollars out of your other job. And by some chance, if you find a good gig, you're all set and ready to go. It's real easy to pull down an extra $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, depending on how good you are and how motivated you are, doing this stuff on the side. People like me are always putting out requests for other people. Hey, I'm doing a gig. I need somebody to do a backtrack, social set, backtrack set decoy for the client. I pay you as part of the gig. You take that money, you run it through your company, you write off your toy of choice, and you get paid for having fun. I'm sure you had to put in a couple late nights, but that's what you had to do going to school, so it's all the same. People tell me occasionally that they can't find clients because the first thing that you've got to do in order to have money coming in is find clients. I've never had any trouble whatsoever finding clients. I think that people who are having a hard time finding clients have not defined what it is they're doing correctly. Like you could say, I want to get paid to play guitar. I want to get paid to raise yaks. If you can't find somebody that will pay you to do that, you have to go back to that thing about maybe you should do another aspect of it. You're trying to do something that you haven't properly defined. Planning is a huge part of this. If you try and take off in a direction that's not going to work, it's not going to work, and no amount of wishful thinking will make it. Coming back to the sole prop thing, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people start off sole prop, because any mistakes you make don't haunt you, don't cause you any grief. That's actually something I've already said, sorry. The other angle is talking to people about the business. If you're going to be doing stuff like this, don't do it in a vacuum. You can't learn a lot of the stuff that I've learned on the internet. It's not there in the right form. We'll talk about shysters in a little bit, but the forms that you will find most useful are what you're going to learn from people that you sit down in a bar and have a conversation with. When I talk to, I don't want to name drop stuff, so when I talk to so-and-so the name, and we have a great conversation about what he's doing and where he's going with his business, I'm learning from that. And those people can give you an immense jump on how to do this stuff. So seek out people in the field that have already succeeded, because they've already succeeded. They know how it works. The other thing is people who are also doing it. They will have valuable insight as well. Don't take anything anybody tells you for granted, though. You can go down a bad path because not everything works for everybody and every situation is unique. And of course, one of my favorite ways of hanging out and having fun and meeting people. I don't know that I've gotten any jobs from any of these things, but I've gotten a lot of friends and a lot of invites, and I've used people that I found at these things. I've picked up consultants from B-Sides and subcontracted with people from Shmoo. This one here, a lot less so, but yes, sir.
I will say that I've gotten a job because of going to conferences, and even though
I'm sure.
shit next to a lot of my coworkers, I speak at so many conferences that I think that was the largest part that got me hired.
Mm-hmm.
People knew who I was, and that, if you don't know a whole lot, you speak in that place and people know you, it goes a long way.
It does, and I'll give you an example of how this works. Who's married with kids? What's the most expensive trip you're going to take? Disney World. Get in Disney World, man. What happens down next door to Disney World that most of us will attend at one point or another?
ABN is out in Las Vegas.
That's pathetic. That's so corporate. I expect more from you. Sands training, which unfortunately is expensive. But hey, somebody's got to put those kids through college. You can do this one of two ways. You can take your employer's money and go down to Sands and attend your Disney World thing, or you can pay for it out of your own pocket and write off the trip as a business trip. There's angles in there. You can't just blatantly write off the entire family's trip to Orlando, but you can write off yours, and you can write off half the meals. It's called meals and entertainment. It's a 50% claim, and the government allows that. Never had any troubles. You can't claim your wife's ticket. Can you claim your entry fee into the park? Guesses? Of course you can. You can always claim something. You just have to have a good enough reason, which is why you have a blog on the side and you talk about the shitty security at Thunder Mountain and how you walked into that door that said employees only and saw those neat controls on the wall and then pressed that switch and there was that horrible rending sound and got the hell out, which kind of sidetracks into insurance, but we're going to cover that. So everything is a tax write-off. That's the first thing is, okay, I'm going to write this off. How do I do it? Romney thinks he's sharp, man. I show that guy a thing or two. These guys, pardon my French, watch out for the motherfucking shysters. These guys are everywhere. Goddamn snake oil salesmen are like a plague on mankind. People that can't do shit. Oh, you want an example? This presentation and the material in it will make its way into a shyster's, not pocket, presentation portfolio and be for sale for like $7.95 or $8.95 on one of the shyster push channels that ever shows up in Twitter, because that's all they do is steal other people's crap and then market it as their own. When you start up a business, not so much the sole prop, but once you fill out a form of some type, you have now committed a publicly visible activity. Every shyster on the planet is going to start coming after you. If you register for a tax ID, that's public. God help you if you attempt to trademark or service mark something. We trademarked digital trust this year, and I cannot believe the amount of mail I got from companies saying, hi, we're with the registration department for trademarking, and you owe us $2,500 or $3,000 or $10,000. And the way this works is they send this to everybody that registered a trademark, and 2 or 3 of them will pay for it, and that covers the entire mailing program. Plus, a handsome profit, because people are stupid. We're not stupid, we're ignorant, we don't know. You get something, it looks like it's from the government, who are you to say? There's a company in Philadelphia it's in New Jersey, that's been bugging me for 8 months now to disclose some of my insurance data. And my employees, I don't think so. I don't see anything on here that says you're going to take me to court if I don't tell you, so why the hell would I tell you? But you have to, it's the law. Show me the law, bitch. Having that sort of skepticism is the only thing that saves a lot of us, because if you go and blow one of these things, you become a bigger target for these people, and it only takes losing a little bit of money when you're a small company to really fuck up your bottom line. And that sucks, because then you've got to shut down and you've got to wait to recover your finances, and then you've got to start over again, and then you've probably got a bad taste in your mouth and you don't want to do it again, and you go back to being an employee and you die miserable working for somebody else. So I think there should be a tag on these guys, maybe a hunting season. I'm thinking 3 or 4 a piece per year. Anytime, any place. Sorry about discharging my firearm in public, but he was a scumbag. It starts when you file public stuff. It starts when you ask for help with a logo. It starts when you open a website. These people come out of the woodwork. They're horrible, horrible human beings. I hope they all die and burn in hell. So why do we work? For family, for love, for money, for drugs, rock and roll, fast cars, for bitches. You will always be happiest when you are working for and on what makes you happy. A lot of us programmer types will code anything. We don't care. The beauty of it is in the code. It's like music. I love to code 40-hour, 50-hour stretches. Finding somebody that will pay me $175,000 a year to do that, very limited. They can pay some dude overseas $20,000 to do the same thing, albeit really crappy with lots of bugs that we can then exploit. So there's like an upside and a downside. It doesn't really matter. If kittens are your thing, you can do stuff with pet stores and cats. It's unlimited how this applies. But the big secret to all of this is spend your moolah on the stuff that makes you happy and figure out how to tie that to the business. And it was like a light bulb went off one year when I was at the drag races, and I'm talking to these guys, and I'm looking at the car he's driving, and I'm looking at the clothes he's wearing, and I'm looking at the dragster, and my head keeps going back and forth, and I'm trying to get my head around it. And finally I'm like, what the hell do you do for a living? I'm a contractor, like construction contractor. I'm like, well, you're not pulling down $200,000. How the hell did you afford that rail? Well, it's a business advertising and marketing expense. Every spare cent I have goes into that. That's his passion. That's what he likes. I hope the kids get to go to college, but the point of the thing is there's all kinds of people out there doing this already. This is nothing new. This is how you get the job done. This is the secret that nobody ever tells you when you're in school, mostly because you're young and ignorant and can't do this just yet, and you should go work for somebody. But once you have enough experience or have sought enough knowledge from people that have it, there's no reason for you to work for somebody else. Contracting is the fucking bomb. It's awesome. Yeah, I have to pay for all this shit myself. I have to do all of the paperwork myself and my books and stuff like that. God, I get to decide what jobs I take, who I work with, when I work. It's Tuesday. Fuck it, I'm not getting up. I don't have to. I don't have a client. The downside is if you don't get up and you do have a client, you won't have them for long. And if you don't have any clients, there goes that cash flow. And now you're back to looking for a job. One of the original ways that I got into this was I married a woman. Anybody else here like women? Married a woman? What do women like? Shiny shit. Lots of shiny shit. I was raised a poor youth in the suburbs and went to boys club, and the first time we went to buy a piece of jewelry, having been through metal shop and boys club and stuff like that, I looked at that, did the mental calculations in my head about how much gold was there. 14 karat is 55% gold. Gold at the time was $300 per ounce. It was about a quarter ounce altogether, which meant 75, about $40 worth of gold. And there was a big colorful stone on top, which I happen to know is a common stone on the planet and shouldn't be worth more than $5. It was a half-carat sapphire. Didn't know that at the time, but knew for a fact that it was a common stone. They're not that hard to get at the right price if you know what you're doing. Looked at the price tag, looked at her, and went, oh, God, I'm doomed. Bought the ring, went home, enrolled in a class on how to make jewelry. And I started a jewelry business, which we ran for about 6 years until we decided that we had had enough of that and closed it up. Best decision I ever made in that particular case, especially when I asked her to marry her and she said, I want that one. Oh, God. If I didn't have to pay wholesale for that, I'd have been ruined. But worth every penny. And we're still in the business, kinda, so we can still buy the stuff. Anyways, that's one of those things where need creates motivation. So while you might not be able to do directly what you want to do, you might get to do something indirectly. You might want to get paid to play Magic the Gathering tournaments. Unfortunately, you suck at strategy. Run tournaments. Then it's almost like getting paid. You can play in the tournament, it's covered, and you get paid for it essentially. Back to the vacation thing. Once the kid has moved out of town and is off on his own, and you and the wife want to go take a nice romantic vacation someplace, say Italy or Germany, because I'm thinking of Germany. The reason I bring that up is, did you know that there's no B-sides Germany? Which is odd. I mean, the Germans have a very strong hacker culture. I've experienced it firsthand a couple different times. You would think that they would have that. The only cons that I could find in Germany are rather psychedelic. I don't want to go that. So how am I going to get to Germany, get to see Germany, get to take the wife along, and claim that as a business expense? I'm going to organize B-Sides Germany. I will call somebody over there. We will make contact. We will do that social thing where I am not a douchebag, and we will set up a con over there, and I don't care if it's just the two of us. It's a fucking con, and I'm writing it off. That's all that matters. Once you start to expense this stuff, things will start popping out like, wow, I didn't realize that I'd be able to write that off. That's pretty cool. I decided 3 years ago that I was sick of sitting in a tree at sub-zero weather and waiting for Bambi to walk by just so I could feed myself. So I bought a crossbow, which is just a shopping tool. There's no art in it. Anybody who hunts and says that there's some artistry or mystery to it is either really bad at what they do or lying to themselves. You're shopping. Unless you go after a boar with a knife, it's not sport. How the hell am I going to write off a crossbow as a security consulting business? That took some thought. I wonder if I could use it to put cameras on top of trees, or put cameras on top of buildings, or shoot lines across voids between buildings, because we do physical pen testing. I don't see why not. Ta-da! Tax deductible. I only took 50% because, let's face it, I am going to hunt with it. But that's 50% that I didn't get before. That's $300 I got to keep instead of being turned into, I don't know, a bomb to drop on brown people. Beats the hell out of it for me. The other thing is little things like $5 coffee receipts that add up. You don't have to have a receipt for anything under $25. I keep all my receipts, every single one. I don't care if it was 27 cents. I get them, they get logged, they get taken. You add these things up over time though, $5 coffee, 5 days a week at Starbucks. And the funny thing is that the self-help people have this as an antithesis. You're in debt and you need to get out of debt. The first thing you need to do is cut out your lattes. That first thing you need to do is figure out how to deduct your lattes, and that way you don't have to worry about it. It adds up to like, what? If you have 200 drinks a year and you deduct that instead, that's like you just got handed enough money to take a cruise with your wife down to Barbados. That's a lot of coffee. That's worth it. Or you could not save it and pay off some debt with money that you already paid tax on. It's really up to you. I like keeping my money. Let's see, crossbow, sole prop, 9 to 5, yeah, those things. That's it for that slide. Okay. Expenses are the biggest thing that we're talking about here. They're huge. You have to plan for them ahead of time. Again, if you decide to open up a business or start stuff on the side and take a client and you haven't figured out what your plan and your strategy is for keeping your money, the end of the year is going to roll around and you're not going to get to keep your money. And once Uncle Sam has it, he doesn't like to give it back. Was there a question? Okay. So everything that you buy should begin with, how can I write this off? Pricing your services. This is another fun one. People open up a consult. I'm going to go into security. What do you charge? I mean, I don't know what your skill set is. I know what my skill set is. I don't get to charge the same rate that someone like SCOTUS gets to charge. Ed SCOTUS. You owe me a beer for that. I'm pointing at the camera at Ed next time I see him. He's a great guy, great teacher. Free booze is always nice, and he can write that off. But pricing your services, there's the typical way to do it, which is to analyze your cash flow, your expenses, your overhead, look at your bottom line, your expectations for earning, and come up with some mystical number, but it's really tedious and a pain in the ass. I have a much, much better way of figuring out how much to price your services for. When you get a client, you look at the market that they're in, the target market. You look up what the ladies of the evening are charging that target market for a night of service as an escort. And then you divide that by 8. That is your hourly rate. I swear to God it works. I don't know why. It works on every job I've ever tried it on. It's the most bizarre thing ever, but give it a try. An index. We'll put it up in the cloud. No, but ironically, you should look at the girls who are in college dancing at the clubs, and this is where getting into the difference between, am I dancing at Bob's strip joint, or am I dancing at the, the expensive one that I can't go to because I'm not a salesman, where the salesmen go. But it comes back to what the client can afford. If the client's in an area that's not going to be able to afford champagne and caviar, pricing your services that way isn't going to do you any good. They're not going to be able to afford you. At the same time, underpricing your services can cost you jobs because they think you don't know what you're talking about, or lose you jobs because your prices are wrong. Find out what the other people are charging in the area. Find out what the other people in your skill zone are charging. One of the advantages of working with other people, consultants in the security business now, specific to security, work as a loose affiliation of independent contractors. I go out, I find a job, I take the primary cut of the pie, I call my friends, they come in and help on it. Some of them are very skilled at what they do. Some of the guys that I've called for help on things are incredibly talented, and I hope one day I can maybe be the enter key on their keyboard. I can't do that shit, so I have to call for help, but they're really good. Then you can charge different rates for them. Like if Keith was on a job, I would charge, what, 25, 30 bucks?
Okay.
That would cost you extra. So yeah, variable pricing depending on what you're doing. And that's where experience comes in. There's a lot of this that's you have to chalk up to, well, you went and you caught that job and you didn't get that job, and now you know next time to try it differently. Like dating, you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be people that turn you down. You just have to get used to it and figure out how to do it right. Unfortunately, if you're running a business, you're going to have to learn bookkeeping. I ran all of my business for 20 years on Dome bookkeeping, which is a paper book that you get at Staples for, I think, $6. It's single entry bookkeeping, which is much easier than double entry bookkeeping. You just have to write down what you spent, add it up, and then deduct it from what you made. It's easy as pie. If you want to learn double entry bookkeeping, that's your choice. I now run my corporation on single entry bookkeeping. There's no reason not to. I don't understand double entry bookkeeping other than it being a way for accountants to make money, because it's not necessary. You don't have to have it. It's not a tax benefit. So why it's there, I don't know. But you have to do your taxes. You have to keep track of all this stuff. Basically, anytime any money crosses your palm, one way or the other, it goes in the books. Federal taxes take the most out of what you do, but local taxes will cause you the most problems, especially if you're crossing state lines, but sometimes even if you're crossing county lines. I won't hire people who live in certain states in my area because paying them across that state boundary sucks. I have to jump through so many hoops as an employer and pay so many more crazy fees and taxes and report to different agencies. It's just not worth it. I don't care how much talent you have. I'm not hiring you. Is that discrimination against people from that state? Yeah. Do I care? Not a bit. Sue me. Local taxes cause the most problems. you'll get a call from somebody down at your local township, and they'll be like, yeah, we noticed you've been in business for a while and you haven't paid this particular weird ass tax. You'll be like, I didn't even know you guys existed, because there's nobody giving you a briefing on what it is you're supposed to do. Again, comes back to talking to people who are already in the business in the area doing what you're doing. They can let you in on these little things. If you have an accountant for your business, they should be telling you you have to pay these things. If you end up paying payroll, they'll be telling you most of these things. And this is how you know that local taxes suck. The Paychex payroll company refuses to deal with most local taxes just because it's just such a tedious pain in the butt. The good news is there's also not a lot of penalties for screwing it up. I didn't pay, I forget what damn tax it was, for 2 years, and they're like, you owe us back taxes. I'm like, all right, this is gonna suck, what do I owe you? Well, add it all up and add 1% per month per year. I'm like, so I owe you $42 instead of $22? All right. It's like almost not even worth it for me to try, except that you get hate mail from them, so I'll pay it every 3 years. So this is the super skinny version of the business stuff that we've been talking about. Planning is essential, is the upfront. You're gonna wanna pick a name, blah, 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 determine structure, EIN. This is the stuff that you would find in a book on how to start a business, how to run a business. Getting insurance. Depending on what you're doing, insurance can really suck. If you're pen testing, you're gonna pay about $2,000 a year. If you're pen testing in a HIPAA or PCI environment, you're gonna pay about $4,000 a year. If you're doing forensics, you're gonna pay about $6,000 a year. That's just for you, not for anybody else. And you all have to have insurance, which is why working with independent contractors is so handy, because I don't have to pay for their insurance. They've already got it since they're part of the family. Bank accounts, locating customers that are more expensive. Pay taxes, plan growth. Okay, good. Moving right along. Oh, I did forget one. My bad. This is where we talk about business formations. The sole prop, as I mentioned, that's you and your social security number having a grand old time. There are limits to what you can do with that. It's going to be really hard for you to claim your vehicle 100% if you're working full-time for another company and doing side jobs. If you want to do things like that, you're going to have to be either on your own, as this is your primary form of income, or you're going to have a corporation that it's shielded under. Anybody can build a corp. Anybody. Doesn't take much work at all. It costs money. Costs about $2,000 to spin up an LLC. And that's pretty much everything I can think of except insurance. The corp is important for protection, especially if you have a family, if you have children, if you like the shit that you own already and want to hang on to it when you make a terrible mistake. You want to shield your business with an LLC or a full corporation, depending on how much you do. So this is like a path that we go down as consultants. We start off as a sole prop. We move up to an LLC because you can be a one-person LLC. And then we change into a corporation when we sell out. And once that happens, you're not going to want to be part of the business anymore, because the investors that start running your business will quickly ruin what little good reputation you have. IBM. The EIN, the tax ID, is not required, but you can even get that as a sole prop if you just want the convenience of keeping your numbers separate. Yep. It's the same thing. S Corp LLC. I don't know if you can do an S Corp without the LLC. I'd ask my accountant, but everybody does S Corp LLC that I can think of. Anything else? Are we on to growth now? If you do make a mistake with your business formation and anything, I mean, from the name of it to actually screwing up a client or something, you can always spin it down and spin one back up. There was a pair of brothers in Germany that I knew. These guys were geniuses. They owned a bar outside of a big base. And they would get busted regularly for selling to minors, for things going on the premises that they had no control over. And they would get shut down, the business would be closed, blah, blah, blah. They would just have the other brother that did not own the club spin up a new business and buy the club from the other brother and reopen within like a week. Brilliant. They sold that thing 4 times while I was there. Planning is everything. Again, miracles will happen to everybody but you. When you go into something like this, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you think you can do no wrong. You think that everything's going to go the way you think it is. You think that this magical client that you got signed up is going to carry you forever. And one day you discover that they're not, and you fall on your ass. Planning is important. And let's talk about some more specific stuff with insurance. Failure to obtain the proper insurance for whatever it is you're doing may result in an ass pounding the likes of which you will never forget. There are people out there who will sue you just because they can sue you. There are people out there who consider the fact that you have insurance an open invitation to sue you. Back to the evil scumbags that should be shot on sight. Proof of insurance should be a standard request for any contract, especially in our business. If you're dealing with a client that's not asking you for proof of insurance, that should be a good sign that you're dealing with somebody who doesn't know what they're asking, and you have an opportunity there to educate them about a whole spectrum of things having to do with information security. You can also offer to audit all of their other contracts. If you have children, get insurance and form an LLC, because they will take your house. Back to the super skinny version, growth. I think I already covered most of the growth stuff. Yeah, we got this. Skip. Okay, one of the things having to do with growth is that you can no longer do all of the work. Hiring employees. The derp to your herp. Good employees are awesome. Bad ones can destroy you. My advice is to not have any. I have, as of this point in time, essentially lost all respect for anybody that works for a company, because I know all of the advantages on the other side and how this stuff can be made to work. I also know that it's impossible for all of us to become consultants at the same time and vacate all these businesses. But I also understand that it's in their best interest to do it as well, because when the business needs to lose people, if you're a contractor, they just go, thank you very much, here's your check, hit the bricks. And it's easy for everybody. You understand what's going on, they do, there's none of this emotional, but I put in 20 years at this company. It's great if you get a pension, but that's a thing of the past. We don't get to live like that anymore. We have to be responsible for ourselves now because nobody else will do it for us. And if you think you're going to get that pension, you may be living in a strange world that the rest of us don't inhabit anymore. I've seen too many friends get burned by too many major corporations that ended up going down in flames in recent history. My advice is take care of yourself. The other thing is that independent consultants, business owners, are much more motivated to do a good job because they understand what's on the line. If I bring somebody in on a job, I know that that person is going to give me whatever it takes to get the job done. We give them goals, they get it done. Employees, in a lot of cases, are worried about where's the coffee? How come I don't get free water? Do we get soda? I want a lunch break. From hourly employees to full-time equivalents, whatever, their focus is no longer on getting the job done. It is on having a job. And there's a huge difference in performance that goes along with that. I know, I was an employee for a long time, so I know what we do and what we get away with, and what goes through our evil little twisted minds when we think we're getting fucked by somebody, our boss. You can't have any of that as a business owner. You have to be serving the client heart and soul all the time, or you don't have any. You have to do a good job, or it comes back to haunt you, and then you can't do this consultant stuff anymore. Yep. Yep. I do too. It also depends on who's being managed. It's not a truism 100%, but I bet I can walk into any corporation out there and pull out 50% of their personnel and improve their productivity. But again, it depends on the company. Startups in particular, tech startups, have a higher density of people who are highly motivated. When I worked for the robotics firm, everybody that was there acted like they owned the company because we all had stock options. But it was a great place to work. Other places, notably bureaucracies, are a miserable spittoon of disgusting, nasty stuff that you don't want to even step in certain places. They're just bad because the motivation's gone. Can't be helped, but there's ways to get it back. But regardless, try working for yourself on some of these things and see if you're a little bit happier. I use subcontractors all the time, partners, never have any problems. And if I do, I just don't call that person again. There's none of this business with an employee about, well, they worked here for more than 6 months and now you've got to go through a dismissal program and they're going to sue you for wrongful termination. You just go, bye, and that's the end of it. That being said, I do employ interns. I have a very formal intern program where people come through a certain period of time, they do certain things. If they can cut the mustard, if they can do the job that we're pointing them at, which is sort of like a mutual thing, then they get to learn about running businesses and stuff like that. And at the end of that time, I will either spin them and help them get on their own feet as consultants to become part of the array of consultants that work on jobs that we do, or I will advise them to go get a job and acquire more knowledge, more business workings. It depends on the individual. Sometimes you need that structure and shelter of being an employee for a little while so you get your head around, I have to get up on time. Because if you don't have that, working for yourself as a consultant is going to fail. Yay, military. That's what they did for me. You're going to get up on time, or we're going to kick your ass. They work out pretty well. If the interns don't work out, then it's, thanks, goodbye. None of this sad employee stuff. When they take off and fly off into the sunset as successful new consultants, I get to feel a warm, happy feeling, even if I don't get to use them for my gig anymore. At least I know I've done something right. Certifications, barriers to growth. The most notable barrier to growing as a security outfit is the PCI barrier, which is at last.
Say some stuff.
Lost your clip.
Oh yeah. Brian, say some stuff.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
And just talk loud. Oh, okay. Rob, here, give me some more battery. Clip. Hey, clip here for you. I'll clip here. We're just going off mic right now. We're going off the microphone in the camera.
You can adjust it in post.
Some, but yeah.
Okay, so aside from things like PCI, there are other certifications in any professional area. Healthcare has a bunch. Project management has some. Wait for the mic now. Hello? Hello? Okay. So a lot of these certifications cost about $10,000. That's a heck of an investment to make if your contract is only $10,000 or $20,000. Again, back to the partnering thing, if you can find somebody who's already got it and work with them on a gig that you got, you can take advantage of their having paid it and get away with it for now until you can afford the investment, and if you ever even want to. It may be the only client you ever get that asks you if you had that particular certification or could work with that money, with that particular, it's not exactly a certification. It's gaining access to certain materials that are only available for a price. Like if you were doing an ANSI, the 800, no, not the 800, that's NIST. What's the other security cert? ISO. If you want the ISO things, you have to pay $300 to download the ISO. These are significantly more expensive. They're like 10 grand plus, but you may only ever see that one time, so it's not worth it. On the other hand, you can also capitalize on that and do that as a business venture. I never started the clock, where are we? Certs, personnel certs, are usually largely bullshit. They have their points, we'll talk about that, but they either don't map to reality. There's been a lot of commentary about a particular security cert that is like stuck in the 50s. Or they're current, but they don't have any depth and they're gamed by people. The Microsoft certs are notoriously gamed and largely worthless when it comes to their actual capability. So their quality isn't there. You can't rely on it. It doesn't mean that they're not useful for something, but when dealing with other humans, use past performance and current measure. Don't rely on something like a cert. They do indicate that they had enough knowledge to pass the test, so at least they can spell cylinder, but don't rely on it. They will, however, on occasion get you a job, so don't neglect them. A lot of them are cheap and easy to get. You don't have to sleep, or you don't have to study for it. You can basically sleep through the test, still pass, still hold the cert. Yay, you have a cert. And you'll get jobs where they're like, hey, if you don't have this cert, we're not even going to talk to you. All right, whatever. Do everything all right, do everything that you can, as well as you can, and there's still no guarantee that you'll be a success. Everything is different for everyone, and something can always go drastically wrong. Every job I'm on, there's a chance that someone's going to make a fatal mistake. Every time I'm driving back from a client site with a hard drive that's packed full of social security numbers and bank accounts, there's a chance that I'll get into a car accident, that information will become exposed. I have insurance. It's great, it's going to cover me with the client, but it's not going to cover me with the class action lawsuit that comes afterwards. For that, they're going to destroy my company and take every asset we have, and then they're going to come after me personally. That's the risk that you accept when you get into the business dealing with that kind of forensic shit. There's stuff that you can't insure against, and it will take down the company. At which point, you close it all down and spin up another company and you go on your merry way. But you need to be aware of that kind of stuff. You can't just go blindly into these things and start taking contracts for people without understanding the repercussions of mistakes of what you're doing. Those contracts are there for a reason, to protect everybody, but nobody wants to sign one that takes away all of their protection. We didn't talk too much about contracts because they're a rather complicated piece of thing and it's very, very boring. But that's another thing you'll have is contracts with all these clients. Any questions? All right, is there any wrong left? You guys are slackers. Thank you very much. Let me ask another question. Is anybody going to make use of any of that? Oh, that's cool.
Thank you, Brian.